So now we continue on stanza 89 of the 9th chapter of Bodhicharyavatara. So we are talking about the mindfulness of the feeling. And we talked about if the feeling is something which is truly existing on its own, then it was asked that it should be there all the time, like feeling of suffering, pain. If that's truly there, then it should be there all the time. But it's not there all the time. You can feel joy, and when you feel joy, then there is no suffering or no pain. So where does that, feeling of suffering go? Because so therefore, it's not something that is truly existing. And if, an object of happiness or joy is a truly object of happiness, then even when we are in a kind of a very strong agony situation, if you bring that thing, what is the object of happiness or pleasure, it should be able to give you pleasure, but it doesn't. So therefore, it's not really an object of pleasure. But then if they say, that is 89, if the feeling fails to be experienced through being overwhelmed by something stronger, if you say that, the feeling is always there, but, when you have a strong feeling of joy or pleasure, then it kind of subdues the other feeling, the feeling of suffering or agony or pain, and you don't feel it. You feel only the strong one. So if you say that, then how can feeling rightly be ascribed to that which lacks the character of being felt? When we say feeling, it is something that we have to feel. And if you don't feel it, how can you call it feeling? So whether it is because of a stronger feeling or something else that you don't feel it, then there is no feeling. How can you say there is feeling but not felt? Perhaps you say that only subtle pain remains. Its grosser form has now been overmastered. So when you have, a strong feeling of joy, then the suffering, the feeling of suffering has been kind of subsided, because this feeling of joy is much stronger, and so therefore, it is not so much felt, because it's not because it's not there, but it is, or rather it is felt as mere pleasure, because your opposite is so strong that you only feel that. But what is subtle still remains itself. So even if something is subtle, it has to be felt if it is there. But actually when you feel a strong sense of joy or happiness or pleasure, then you don't have the feeling of pain. And when you have some strong feeling of suffering or pain, agony, then you don't have the feeling of pleasure and things like that, joy. So therefore, feeling is temporary. Feeling is something that comes, that goes, when the kind of certain our mental structure or mental state of mind or, certain way, then we feel, it's because of our, it's created by our concepts and habitual tendencies and, how we see things. And so therefore, it's not something which is truly there, but it comes, it goes, and also how it happens is a lot to do with our way of perceiving things, our way of relating to it. It's very relative, it's very, it's very dependent. It can be on and off. Still, if because its opposite is present, discomfort fails to manifest, it's not the claim that it is a feeling no more than a mental imputation. When you have no feeling, you say that that feeling of suffering is truly there. If that is truly there, then it's not something that can be totally dismantled. It has to be there. But we also say that when you have strong feeling of happiness, then you don't feel it. So if you don't feel it, when it's not, when some other feelings are there, or when you have no feeling, and then it's there when, sometimes some or other things happen, and then, we understand, you can see very clearly that feelings are a mental imputation. You like something, you think something is happening, and that's good for me, that's nice, that's wonderful, You input that in that thing or in that experience, and then you feel the good feeling. You feel happy to have it. You feel, joy of that. And if you input something as not good, something terrible, something you don't like, and then you have it and you feel pain, unhappy, suffering. So it's coming from basically our mental imputation. So therefore, it is not something truly existing on its own. It's basically, imputation of the mind. It's play of the mind. And it is something that changes, that can be changed, that can come and that can go, and even one situation, the same situation, same situation that gives pleasure to you, and in another situation or to another person, it can give pain. Or something that gives you pain at this moment, or to you, to somebody, it can give pleasure. So it's not, it's not something that is truly existing, or something that is real, or that is, that feeling only. pain, pleasure, things like that. But it is, it is much more complex, much more, what can you say? It's not one way. So therefore, since so it is, the antidote is meditation and analysis. Absorption grown in fields of their investigation into the food and sustenance of yogis. So that's why, because it is created with our imputation. This is nice, this is not nice, I like it, I don't like it. If you have aversion, then it brings suffering. If you have something that you like it, then it is supposed to bring, kind of joy. But, it can also change. So therefore, the feeling is not as real and true as it seems. So therefore, antidote is meditation and analysis. So therefore, we can train our mind. We can train our mind in such a way that, we can change this experience. We can allow our mind or train our mind in such a way that we don't have to feel that kind of, fear, worry, anxiety, suffering, sadness, hurt, all kind of, desperate, and even pain, And then instead of that, we can feel peace, joy, compassion, and all this kind of things. And this is very important. Why we can do that? Because if we understand very clearly and experientially that feeling is not something that is, real and concrete and truly existing on its own, but it is, coming from basically mental imputation, and then because of our grasping to it, because our, habitual tendencies, and then, it becomes a very strong kind of, what can you say, addiction. Then it becomes very strong pain and things like that. So therefore, absorption grown in fields of their investigation is indeed the food and sustenance of yogis. So the main practice, main sustenances of the, completely peaceful and inner joy and inner strength, lasting inner joy and inner strength, lasting happiness of yogis come from this understanding, and working on that, maintaining that, training in that. That's why sometimes it's said that the food of yogis, the food or the sustenance of the great yogis is meditation and understanding, through analysis of the nature of the feeling, nature of everything. Because if you know that the feeling is not because this is totally painful, this is totally joyful, it's not like that. It's the way you impute with your mind, you perceive it, and you kind of your belief in it, your way of kind of perception and things like that. So when that is the case, then we can actually change or transform our perception, and therefore our experience of pain and pleasure also. So therefore, if you are a very good practitioner, a good yogi or a good, meditator, sometimes you can go through lots of hardships and lots of difficulties, lots of, very negative and usually painful situation. But you don't feel that. You feel totally calm, joyful, compassionate. So therefore that is the reason why, the training of the mind is important. And the most important training of the mind is to be able to deeply understand the nature of all these things, what is body, what is feeling, and what is mind, and what is the nature of all the phenomena and things like that. I think I'll stop here. This is 92, and I will first read the Tibetan version of it. Tudun dembe sulense kati tenyo mayena gonghi nyanyung danye men deche chowa chitrayin. Dungal chamunye de yu nde rapa salmanam. Tene tele yen gatsam hena chanye tenyo ti. Kalten gachen shepe na dunga shepa manana chowa topa ngay yenye enshi shawa tremen nams. Tenye shenan dayi na nyingbo namshi nda gante. Namda henli shungwa yin samte nanjupa yi se. So I think up to that, and it is 92. Thank you very much. See you soon. Thank you.